Good evening, everyone, and welcome to All Things Brunswick. We have a great show lined up for this evening. With us, I have, once again, a co-host, Mr. Todd Osborne. Thank you, Todd, for joining us.
Glad to be here.
And tonight, our guests include Steve Rice. And I'm not really sure what your technical term would be for your position, Steve. You could tell me this.
So I'm called a lot of things, but I would like to think that I'm a good friend of Kevin and Gay Murga.
Okay.
And a strong supporter for Stop Soldier Suicide.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then we have also with us Kevin and Gay Murga. And thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate your folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin and Gay lost a son to soldier suicide. And I appreciate so much your willingness to talk and try to help other vets. So thank you for being here. We're going to just give you a few details, first of all, before we get into a big discussion. And I would like to turn it over to Steve. And he is the first person that I met and talked to on this subject. So can you give us a few particulars about this county and what you are working so hard for?
So, Mary, we started, this is the fourth year of a fundraiser that we do in honor of Captain Austin Murga. Captain Murga was 82nd Airborne. 6 months after he returned from tour duty in Afghanistan, he died by suicide. We don't want that to happen, and it's an impossible task. But Kevin and Gay found Stop Soldier Suicide as a resource that they believe can help veterans and active duty. And in the next hour, we'll talk some specifics, how your listeners can reach out to Stop Soldier Suicide, the resources that they offer. There's a lot of veterans that call North Carolina home. Mm-hmm. It's the fifth largest population in the United States. There's over 600,000 veterans. There's over 100,000 spread across 11 military bases in North Carolina. We've had meetings with some of the federal politicians from the state to try to increase the awareness of the problem with veteran and soldier suicide, and to create awareness so that the hope is that someone that hears it looks at Stop Soldier Suicide as a resource that can help. And that's what our mission is. We try through the fundraiser, which is held at St. James in September, which is also turns out to be Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Great. So suicide as a whole is a problem. Mm-hmm. Our focus is specific to veterans and active duty. We feel that Stop Soldier Suicide is a resource that can help if called upon. But Stop Soldier Suicide is not going to call you. You had to call them. Right. You had to first acknowledge that you need help and then pick up the phone. They can help you anywhere in the United States. It's all virtual or over the phone, if you would. But they're based up in Durham, North Carolina. But their touch is not just in North Carolina. It's throughout the entire world. They can help you. Great. So, and the important thing to state about what they offer is that it's no cost and it's confidential. Mm-hmm. So if you're active duty and the concern is blemishes on your record, Stop Soldier Suicide helps tremendously in the area of no cost and confidential. Right. And they have a very successful track record.
That's great.
You just got to pick up the phone.
Let me ask you one question, Steve, if I may. When did you notice, or did our country or state or whomever notice that this was a definite problem? When did this begin?
So the VA has seen the problem for a long time. The problem is it's gotten worse through the deployments of in Afghanistan and Iraq. The fact that soldiers were going on multiple deployments. This wasn't a draft. This was they signed up for it. They went. They came back. They were almost a short time thereafter. They're sent back again.
Right.
The assumption was that you were okay if you didn't ask for help, and one of the problems with that is that's a bad assumption to make. You had to assume that they've seen things that
Absolutely.
no one should see. They also suffer from PTSD, or could be you can call it what you want, but it leads to PTSD.
Right.
And the military doesn't want to hear that everyone suffers from it and be proactive in trying to deal with it. And as a result of it, the suicide rate of veterans and soldiers is 57% higher than those who have not served. It's estimated that over 22 soldiers a day die by suicide.
Wow.
And that's across all branches.
Goodness.
And the VA says it's a problem. It's a crisis. They're trying to do what they can, but they have the stigma of being the VA. Many veterans won't go to the VA and don't trust the VA. So Stop Soldier Suicide becomes a resource.
Mm-hmm.
There's Wounded Warriors Project. There's Mission 22. There's
Right.
Boot Campaign. There's a lot of different organizations. Stop Soldier Suicide is the only organization that focuses on trying to reduce and end the suicide rate among soldiers and veterans.
Now, is this fairly new, or how long has this stopped?
So Stop Soldier Suicides got started by 4 veterans in 2010.
Correct.
And,
Okay.
and so they've been around. They've been a small organization. They've grown. We like to think through our success in fundraising here in Brunswick County.
Right.
We've done some things in the more recent years to expand the knowledge of the fundraiser into New Hanover County and other areas. And this year we've tried to focus as well on you pick up a Southport magazine or the magazine that is available for Leland, Charlotte, or Southport.
Free of charge.
There's an article. There's an article in the March issue of all 3 magazines here in Brunswick County that's available that talks to Captain Austin Murga, to the what the Murgas have been through.
Right.
Talks to what Stop Soldier Suicide can do and how they can help. There's QR code to give you information on the fundraiser and who we are. At the end of the day, we're trying to help.
Of course.
We're trying to help Stop Soldier Suicide.
Sure.
We need help from the community. We are in St. James. St. James is an amazing community from top to bottom. The level of support that they provide, the number, and a lot of it has to do because there's a lot of veterans that live in St. James.
Right.
And as a result of that, they get the message. They're very supportive of what we do for Stop Soldier Suicide, for Foes of Honor, Military Appreciation Day, and for they've got a Wounded Warriors Project golf tournament.
I am aware.
in
Yes.
April. And it's just it's wonderful to see the support from the merchants in Southport is amazing.
Yep. Now, if I might, Kevin and Gay, how long have you been involved in this program?
Well, let me first of all emphasize that none of us are employees of Stop Soldier Suicide
Right.
organization. We strongly support them, though.
You're
and
volunteers.
We fell in love with them approximately a month after our son died. You see, our son was deployed at the age of 25, responsible for 114 soldiers. They're out of Fort Bragg when they were deployed into Afghanistan to assist special ops frontline fighting. And When our son came back and 6 months later died by PTSD suicide, we quickly discovered that there was a significant problem, a significant crisis, and a significant need for 100% free, 100% confidential counseling. So I had a girlfriend who had a son that was struggling with PTSD as well. Her and I got on this mission. Let's find an organization that provides such 100% free, confidential, cognitive therapy. And I emphasize cognitive therapy because that is a specific type of therapy that has been proven to be the most effective. It does involve training, and they are all trained versus the majority of therapists that are most likely not trained in cognitive therapy. We both fell in love with Stop Soldier Suicide organizations, and as we have worked with them for 3.5 years, my love for them has just strengthened. I can tell you 7 primary reasons why we love Stop Soldier Suicide. Okay, the first reason is their availability. It does not matter where the active military personnel or vet resides, or if they're deployed. It does not matter because all their services are performed over the phone or on WhatsApp. So if you're in Afghanistan, if you're in Saudi Arabia, if you're in North Carolina, or if you're in Alaska, Stop Soldier Suicide can work with you. The second reason why I absolutely love them is because they are 100% free and 100% confidential. And as we learned, both of those elements are very, very important.
Our son, that invisible check mark you get next to your name.
Yes.
He was a captain, wanted to do more with his career and his life, but he knew if he went to get help on the base, you get an invisible check mark next to your name. And there'll be many people who are active right now on the base, higher up, who'll say that's not true. But when these higher ups leave and they become civilians, they will say yes.
I think confidentiality is the first and foremost, most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yes. They, it's not just short term either. The reason why I love them is because their average relationship with their clients are 1.5 years.
Okay.
And it does not matter which branch. You know, the title is misleading for multiple reasons. I hate the title, but I love the organization. They're not just working for active personnel within the Army or Army vets. They help any branch of the military, vets or active personnel. And they prefer to work with clients with active military personnel and vets before you become suicidal or before you become with suicide ideation. However, the title is powerful in that it serves the purposes to what they're focusing on is therapy. But they're very smart and they're very focused.
Now, if the vet needs more than 1.5 years,
they're there forever.
They're there.
Okay.
They'll be there forever. Yes.
I'm just stating that their average relationship is about 1.5 years, and they have 100% success rate if the client stays with them versus discontinuing, because therapy can be hard work, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can be, and it's time devotion.
And I think that we all realize that PTSD has been around a while. I think that.
Yes, when you ask Steve how long, it's been, you know, they called it different things. World War I, World War II. What did they call it? Shell shock?
Shell shock.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
My dad was in World War II. I'm sure he had PTSD. My husband was in Vietnam. I know that he had PTSD.
Absolutely.
It's
Who
been
wouldn't?
around forever.
Who wouldn't? It has been around forever. And the other point is that we have spoken to hundreds of soldiers. we gave classes there at Fort Bragg over 3 or 4 months and spoke to my son's whole battalion. So we spoke to
Wonderful.
hundreds of soldiers. And we still speak to many soldiers and
That's
vets. We
wonderful.
haven't come across hardly anyone that doesn't have PTSD
Mm-hmm.
after a deployment and or a tour. And I'd like to also eventually get into the reasons why PTSD is so common.
Mm-hmm.
There are some solid reasons, but I also want to emphasize right now before I ever forget is that PTSD is conclusive. It is a brain injury. It's not an illness. And I've got all kinds of reports that I'd like to talk to you next week about all the reasons why it is proven over and over again by multiple research labs
Wonderful.
in hospitals as to why it is a brain injury and solutions. Because the brain can be fixed.
Right.
PTSD can be fixed. Okay? But here's another reason why I love Stop Soldier Suicide.
And then we're going to talk about our son.
Yeah.
We're going to
Our
talk
son, too.
about. We're going to talk about
So,
our son.
Number 4.
No, I think she's up to 5 or 6.
Oh,
Here's the-
okay.
Here's the other reason why I love Stop Suicide. It's not just that they're providing cognitive therapy, but they have a staff that researches other resources. May it be horse therapy, may it be adventure therapy, may it be magnetic therapy in the area that client is in. So that's a wealth of knowledge because, there's not one solution fits all.
Absolutely.
And
not.
sadly, with brain injury, it's a tough injury.
Yes.
Okay, so there's typically multiple tasks involved in improving and correcting and repairing the brain when it's been injured.
Right.
So there are a wealth of resources as well, for which our next discussion next week, we'll get into that. We'll get into resources locally within Brunswick County as well as in North Carolina. Okay.
Great,
But in the
thank
meanwhile,
you.
let's talk about my son. Our son.
Our son, yeah, my son.
And
well,
look
the
at
other
the
thing,
pride
too, is
beaming.
we want to bring up, I don't know if it's this week or next week, we'll talk about the Black Box Project.
Oh, well, that's another reason why we love
All right,
Soldier
so
Suicide.
I
Well,
brought it
let's,
up.
You
let's,
mentioned it.
I brought it. So
let's talk about
the
that.
Black Box Project. When our son, so I get emotional when I talk about.
It's okay.
So I always want to do the facts and figures because those aren't really emotional.
Sure.
So when our son died by suicide, Stop Soldier Suicide came to us, or we came to them, and they came to us. They started this project called the Black Box Project.
Okay.
And what this is, it's similar to like the airplane. When the airplane goes down, the black box is there, and they figure out what happened. We were the 5th or 6th family that turned over all of our sons' computers, iPhones, what they want to do. And we went back and forth because it was very private that we're giving this to an
Sure.
organization that we just met.
Yeah.
And they were no pressure. They just said,
It was a very tough decision.
Yeah,
Because we felt like we were handing over our son's
life.
lifetime
Yeah.
of diaries.
I
But
am
what
sure.
what they do with that, and right now I think they're up to about 70 or 80 devices. We were one of the ones first that gave over the Apple devices because at the time they didn't have any, and then they couldn't crack it because of Apple.
Right.
So they had to go deeper into the federal government to get them to crack it. And what they do is they will look at where the history is of that veteran or active duty person. What sites were they on prior to them dying by suicide? So
What were they saying?
what
Their
were
texts,
they say? Were they,
their frequency of the text, the increase, the decrease.
Basically,
contents.
reverse engineering the situation.
Absolutely. So
Yes.
when they're on the phone with an active duty or veteran and they start talking about, oh, what sites you're on, and they say, well, I was on this site, then it kind of says, oh, so we've got 15 people who are on this site and they died by suicide. Now we've got these people we're talking to who are asking for help. Oh, they're on this site also, kind of like a red flag. Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing. The other thing I forgot. So that's the wonderful thing that they're able to do is see where you are in order to help you.
Matter of fact, the VA
Yes.
concluded and has continued to conclude that they can't handle this crisis, PTSD suicide. So they're reaching out. Last year they reached out. They were going to give millions to various organizations to help them on the specific issue of military PTSD suicide. Stop Soldier Suicide won first place with this Black Box project.
Black Box project.
So they were awarded by the Department of Veterans Affairs $3 million to be spent specifically on this research. They cannot spend it for
On
their
therapy,
therapists.
Wow,
So that's
wonderful.
just another validation of how smart and focused they are.
Now I remember. And the other thing that they do is once they see that somebody's on a lot of different sites, like gaming site or something like that, that's where Stop Soldier Suicide is advertising, because they're seeing all these veterans and active duty, are doing this, and like Steve mentioned, they're going to them to try to get them to make the phone call into them. But the big thing is that Gay was mentioning is that the $3 million they were awarded is specifically for Black Box. Everything that we're doing, and Steve mentioned about the golf tournament,
Our fundraisers.
our fundraiser, that's to keep 24/7, 365 days a year counselors on the phone. So it's two different things going on. We're raising money to keep counselors on the phone, and then they have the Black Box project, which they won top prize on, and they're getting the money for.
And this is specifically how you get help through Stop Soldier Suicide. Go to their website, stopsoldiersuicide.org. And on the very main screen, top left corner, I believe, is a red box, and it's entitled Get Help. You click on that red button entitled Get Help. And you complete about 6 simple questions. Name, branch you are in or branch you were in, contact information. Then you should receive an email, if not instantly once you hit the submit button, at least within 24 hours. You receive this email saying that you will get a call within 24 to 36 hours, and if you need help before then,
Immediately.
here's the hotline. Okay, I actually tested this. To my shock, when I had narrowed it down to 2 organizations, I decided, I'm going to pretend I'm a soldier or a vet that needs help, and I hit the submit button for both of these organizations I were considering. Shockingly, the one organization that I was so disappointed in, I immediately got this email saying, sorry, at this time, we do not have any further counselors that can assist you.
Oh, my.
I was flabbergasted.
I'm sure.
Okay,
It's like calling 911 and them saying we're too busy.
Flabbergasted.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, and you look at their website and they talk about how they provide 100% free, 100% confidential counseling. I was shocked. So I immediately, with that terrible response, did the exact same thing with Stop Soldier Suicide. I answered the 6 generic questions. I hit the submit button. I instantly got an email, as I just stated, saying someone will contact you within 24, 36 hours. If you need help before then, here's our hotline number. Within, I believe, 16 hours, I did receive a call from a counselor. She spent 20 minutes with me. I immediately, by the way, stated that I did not need any help. I was just inquiring as to if I can believe in you or not before I go to my sons, Joes, and peers and make the recommendation that they work with Stop Soldier Suicide. She spent 20 minutes with me asking all my
That's
questions
wonderful.
before
Now
I was finished with her.
Let me ask you a question. What about the veteran who has no home. He's living on the street. He definitely has PTSD. He's contemplating suicide because, I mean, he's thinking there's no hope for me. Where he doesn't have means to a computer or
If he has a cell phone,
well,
Stop Soldier Suicide can help.
Some of them don't have phones.
No.
So what answer do we have for them?
Well, I'd prefer to discuss that next week as to the various resources, if you don't mind.
You want the resource? Well, here the good
solutions for them.
The good news is that between I'm a Knights of Columbus 4th degree, and we have people that go out in the community. And 4th degree of the Knight Columbus, we're dedicated to the military.
Okay.
So we have in the Southport area, we know where homeless live.
And this is what I was going to say, because I believe that there are organizations who know where these folks are.
And you look at the VFW, you look at
American Legion.
I mean, so there's a lot of
American Legion's 541 is currently actually doing a study on
So
the
what
local
would they
homeless
do?
in Brunswick
Go
County.
and lend them a telephone, or could they hook them up with the VA center at the complex, or?
Also, the Brunswick County Sheriff's Department helps a lot with the homeless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great resource as well for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's
you know, we're going to have to break
Okay.
just for a second and
Okay.
pay some bills.
All right.
But I cannot believe this time is flying by with all of this wonderful information. And so, folks, come back, join us. We will be back in a few. Conservative leadership is working in Brunswick County, the 5th lowest tax rate in the state, supporting veterans and law enforcement, expanding water and sewer infrastructure, successful job recruitment efforts to bring good jobs to Brunswick County. Vote to keep Brunswick County Commissioners Frank Williams and Mike Forte, 2 lifelong conservative small business owners working hard for us. Paid for by the Frank Williams Committee and the Committee to elect Mike Forte. What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, attorney at law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Everyday people, so we're not going to get... Welcome back, folks, to All Things Brunswick. Today we have with us Gay and Kevin, whose son died by suicide after returning from overseas. And we also have with us Steve Rice, who is the top volunteer, I believe, for soldier suicide. And this is our topic for today. And I want to thank my co-host again, Todd, for coming by and keeping me posted here. He's got my back. He always says, "I got your back," and I really appreciate that. So thanks, Todd, for coming by again today.
Glad to be here. This is a very important topic.
It
for me.
is indeed. I think I'm going to give the mic back to Gay and Kevin and ask them to talk to us a little bit about their son. I'm sure that you'd like the audience to know a little bit about him. What was his first name?
His first name was Austin. His whole name was Austin Antonio Luigi Murga.
I love it.
Poor guy. I'm thinking about the high school test, where you had the boxes. You had to put each letter of your name. You're like, okay, what do I do when I run out of boxes?
Yeah.
Was this always his wish to go into the service? And
Oh, my goodness. From the time he was 4 years old, he'd always had this gigantic American flag pinned on his bedroom wall. I do truly believe that God made my son to be a warrior. From the time he could walk and talk, all he wanted to do was chase the bad guy.
All of our friends, I mean, our son was an Eagle Scout, but through Cub Scouts all the way through, everybody knew. We all thought he was going to be a Marine because he was a big kid, big, strong, and we all thought Marines and all those Boy Scout leaders. Austin was a great leader, and we all knew that he was going to serve our country. He loved our country. And I actually have a man cave, and I have a lot of Austin stuff, and I have his flag that he hung since he was
4 years old.
4 years old. I have it upstairs.
That's so nice.
Yeah, but
our son loved his Joes. Company C, 82nd Airborne. When they were deployed, 114 soldiers he was responsible for at the age of 25, and he loved every one of them. Wow. He treated them like their sons, or sometimes their fathers. Our son was always available to help them, no matter what crisis they were having, may it be health, marriage, alcoholism.
He was one of the. So Austin, in high school, he was a captain of his wrestling team. Graduated high school, went to VMI, which, if anybody knows anything about VMI, it's not a fun school. It's, as they say, it's a great place to be from. It's a tough school, and he loved it.
And that was his choice.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, it was his choice. Absolutely, it was his choice. And there was a point there where he I think his love for his Joes, because he wanted to not graduate as an officer. He wanted to enlist. And our thing was, finish your college and then you enlist. Get the degree and then you enlist. And then, of course, he got commissioned and everything changed. But as Joe said, he was one of those people, he was one of those leaders that you go on a ruck, if you got 50 pounds, he's got 50 pounds. Mm-hmm. And he's doing it with them. And so Austin was a strong man. 6'3", 210 pounds, solid muscle. Solid muscle. And, people always talk about his colonel in Afghanistan. And here he is. He's a lieutenant at the time. And everybody loved Austin. His colonel would say, I'm walking across the field. Austin's coming the other way. And here he is with his bear hug. And he goes to grab me and hug me. And it was this Colonel Janah. And he goes, in my mind, I'm a colonel. He's a lieutenant, picking me up and giving me a bear hug. But the colonel.
Who does that?
Yeah, he goes, but that's Murga. That's Murga.
That's Murga.
And to this day, 4 years later, after our son died, his Joes keep in touch with us,
That's wonderful.
and they don't have to,
That's right.
but they loved him, and he loved them. I mean, it's the stories we heard of our son,
How our son sacrificed for their needs.
and through
through his last
through-
days.
and through high school, and through grammar school, how one of our neighbor friends was being picked on. He was, and Austin went and protected him, and we never knew this. You know, we found out so much about
Austin
Austin.
specifically approached the bullies in middle school and said,
Wow.
if you don't stop picking on my friend, I'm going to take care of you.
But we didn't even know it was a friend of his because the boy he was an Indian that lived in our neighborhood,
Sure.
and the whole family. And so, but he was like, and he protected the girls in his school. I mean, he was. So
He had a big heart.
So what we learned was things that parents should learn about their children when we're in heaven looking down at them, not looking up at them.
I'm sure. He
But-
sounds like he was a wonderful young man.
Yeah.
And I know that you're proud.
I signed all my emails and all my texts when we talked to organization. Proud father of Captain Austin
Yep.
Murga.
Yep.
I mean, it's just.
It's interesting you say he wanted to go in as enlisted. My son actually got a military scholarship to college. And after the first year, he decided, no, I'm going enlisted. And so he went enlisted. Now, after 9 years, he was a staff sergeant, and he got accepted to flight school. Now he's a warrant officer
Right.
at Fort Bragg. So I understand
Oh, yeah.
when he was saying that.
Yeah.
But my father was a first sergeant, and so was my father-in-law. So he had very good role models, and he understood that starting at the ground level made you a better person going forward and a better leader.
Yep.
So I get where he
Yes.
was coming from with
I
that.
Yes.
think that your son had a great, great beginning just talking to you folks.
Yeah,
And,
you know, I like I said before, I really believe that God made my son to be a warrior,
Yep.
and God knew he needed to be a strong leader. So God introduced him to many great leaders throughout his childhood to lead him in that. Boy Scouts,
Right.
Great leaders in Boy Scouts.
wrestling,
Yep.
ROTC,
Yep.
Virginia Military Institute. It gave him many opportunities to learn how to be a great leader.
Well, I
Because he was
believe
going
that-
to need to be. Age 25, responsible for 114 soldiers in
That's
hostile
incredible.
territory.
And you should be
Have to be.
commended, both of you, because this is the person that you raised.
We're very proud of our son.
Yeah.
And our son fought PTSD very gallantly.
And
We're
we
also very
didn't-
proud of him in that capacity
Did
as
you
well.
know? Did you know he was having?
No.
No, he did not want to worry us. But we found out through his friend and Chaplain Claire there at Fort Bragg, that with her efforts and his efforts, he was gallantly fighting it his last 6 months of his life.
He a week before he died by suicide, it was Gay's birthday, and he came in and to surprise Gay, and we went to Mr. P's, you know, and you know, and so as I always tell the story, so we're at Mr. P's, and you know, he just got back from Afghanistan, and you know, he came back with, you know, tax, you know, because you're over there, your money's tax free. So he came back with his, you know, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months worth of salary.
Right.
And we're sitting at dinner, and he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna go buy myself a Ford F-150 diesel." And he's got a, and Gay to this day drives his vehicle. And we say, "Why a diesel?" So this is a week before, and he says, because it takes 100,000 miles before the engine breaks in. He goes, I'm going to have this the rest of my life.
It'll last me forever.
It'll last me forever. So it's like, okay. So
he went grocery shopping
Yeah.
the day he died.
well, I want to tell so my son's favorite drink was an old-fashioned
Old-fashioned.
when Daddy was buying it because they were expensive. So he was enjoying his old-fashioned. And, I mean, he ordered the steak. He ordered the soft-shell crabs. Just to celebrate Gay's birthday. And typically we were very fortunate that he was up at Bragg, and because he wanted to go everywhere because he was airborne.
Sure.
He was Army. He went through Army Ranger School, was Army Ranger. So, and we were fortunate that he ended up here and not up in Alaska. And so that day, instead of staying the night like he typically does, he went back there. So on September 7th, it was Memorial Day weekend. Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend. He and I are texting back and forth to each other. And I was talking about golf, and we were going back and forth. And this is like, I was just looking at it, was 3:48 p.m. on Labor Day, excuse me. And he goes, look, I'm going to go out grocery. He was an officer. He lived off base. I'm going to go out grocery shopping. Got in touch with his roommate, said, hey, I'm going grocery shopping for the week. So probably head out the door 4:30. 3 hours later, he's dead.
Wow.
The demon, and it's the demon. The demon came that friggin'
Yes,
quick.
Yes. And this is something that I learned when I kind of, investigated this, was that it all of a sudden takes hold and they can't fight it. And that's why
it seems to be unique to military PTS. That the decision is made within a 10-minute period.
Yes.
And we know it wasn't our son. I mean,
No, that was not our son.
He was our only child. Had the world by the, I don't know if I can say balls over here, but had
Say whatever you wish.
had the world by the balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
he had everything going for him.
He loved us. We
His
loved him.
superiors thought the world of Austin. His subordinates thought the world of
Another
Austin.
thing that I heard was PTSD shows no favors, no favoritism, and suicide follows behind. I'll never forget that expression. Steve, did you meet these people after they lost their son, or did you know him?
Now, so I'm a neighbor of Kevin and Gay's,
Okay.
and had met Austin on numerous occasions.
Okay.
And I've got some stories that I won't tell about Austin on the beach. But he was a great guy.
Yeah.
And what happened to Austin and the impact on Kevin and Gay is it's a gut punch.
Of course.
And the ability that we've got to try to help others through Stop Soldier Suicide has become kind of the mission. We were so happy when Austin got back from Afghanistan. He was safe.
Sure.
We had no idea that his worst battle was right in front of him.
Yeah.
And that's what hurts, because none of us saw it coming.
Right.
Here's a
Thing is,
terrible
it doesn't
statistic.
show, does it?
No.
It often doesn't. However, there are some classic symptoms: anger, abuse of drugs,
Oh, yes.
our
They
abuse of
self-medicate,
alcohol,
I believe.
or the abuse of sex, alienation. Those are anger, once again, anger. Lack of sleep,
Right.
anxiety attacks, panic attacks. Those are the classic symptoms. It
Did your
becomes a living
son
hell
show
for
any of
them
those
as well as for their loved ones, typically. We never knew about any of it until after he died, we were told.
Oh,
You know, the week after our son died, and the department, the Army, came to our door to assist us with his funeral. I want to tell this bittersweet story in memory of all the mamas throughout all our wars, that something terrible happened to them that I want to share with you. So, when he asked, where do we want our son buried? Kevin and I looked at each other, and in those 2 or 3 seconds, we didn't know it, but we were going to give the same answer. But also what we didn't know was going on in that 2-second stare was, what if we're told no? We wanted our son buried at Arlington National Cemetery, but my gut sunk at the concept that I was going to be told, no, your son doesn't deserve to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Mm-hmm. But gladly, happily, they said, sure. But I did research, and this is what makes me mad, and this is what this mad mama did.
And our son wanted to be buried there because before they leave,
before deployment, they have to fill out certain
all the
papers, and that's one of the questions.
He wanted,
is, if you die, where do you want to be buried?
okay.
He filled out Arlington National Cemetery.
and we didn't know about that.
We didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
So I did some research. This is pathetic. It was not until 2012. Now, technically, Arlington National Cemetery is owned by the Army. It was not until 2012 that the Army/Arlington National Cemetery allowed any active military or vet to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Mm-hmm. It did not matter rank. It did not matter how many deployments or tours. It did not matter how many Bronze Stars, Purple Hearts, silver medals. My heart sunk at the concept of how many thousands of mamas were told no.
Right.
I was told yes, but I had that 3-second horrific, gut-wrenching sensation of what if I told no?
I can't imagine
So, this is what we did.
Well, yeah, this goes on to the...
In honor of every mama over the many wars, starting with the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, etc., in honor of all those mamas that were told no, I wanted to do something for them. So here's the deal. On a headstone at Arlington National Cemetery, they are Pacific. It's an 8-page pacification as to what is allowed and not allowed on a headstone. One of the few things that are allowed is a term of endearment. So, we found out our son gallantly fought PTSD, so we started calling him our PTSD warrior. So we decided that's what we want on his headstone, okay?
He helped Joe's with PTSD.
They told us no 3 times. Okay, now term of endearment is allowed. We said that's our term of endearment.
Right.
And they said no. I finally had to get the assistance of
Vice President Pence.
Second Lady Pence.
Second Lady Pence.
Wow.
And they finally said yes. So, in honor of all those mamas that were told no, I want everyone to go to our son's headstone, and I want you to read it. And I want you to see on the very bottom of his headstone his term of endearment, our PTSD
warrior.
That's very nice.
And that's in honor of all those mamas.
That's very special. Yes.
I can't.
Thank you for sharing.
I can't allow.
that.
I can't go back in time, but that's what I could do for all those mamas.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to the stigmatism of mental illness.
Absolutely.
You know, whether it's from combat or a
Yes.
life experience or whatever.
Yes.
You know, we all kind of grew up, we're all roughly the same age, so we kind of grew up in that where you didn't discuss those things. Or
Yeah.
if somebody had to go see a therapist or something, they had issues. And we're starting to realize, no, probably we were the ones with the issues because we didn't recognize it.
Absolutely, Todd.
So do you
Absolutely,
think,
Todd.
Todd, do you think that the Army refuses to discuss PTSD for that reason?
They used to. I don't think they do as much now because it's so prevalent. The problem is the bureaucrats in Washington is who I blame for this, my opinion. But they still kind of crucify the soldier for wanting to get help.
Oh,
It is a company by
that's kinda
company,
like the
battalion by
invisible check
battalion
mark.
basis, but in general, yes. And I'll say specifically, yes, they're at Fort Bragg,
My
hands
son
down.
has worked with soldiers. I have a young lady that lives right next door to our house in Hope Mills.
Yes.
And she's 27. Came back from the sandbox, developed a mysterious heart issue. I think she's had her 7th surgery now on
Yes.
her heart. She got med-board and all. But they're basically like, oh, you're not usable anymore, push you aside. Well, they kind of treat the mental side of it the same way. They're
Yes.
just, okay, you can no longer be a warrior, so push you aside. But I think the commands are starting to better understand what's going on and realize they need to do more. You know, my father, it's funny, he was 82nd Airborne and 101st Airborne in 3 wars. And the first sergeants were the ones who took care of the troops. Command didn't care.
Right.
As long as that unit could deploy and do the mission, they weren't worried about their problems. And we're finally starting to get out of that. And folks like you and organizations like this are helping to solve that. But the little girl that lives next door to me, I check on her constantly. She tells everybody I'm her adopted father. She's awesome. I would not tick her off because she can pluck you at 1,000 yards.
Right.
So, and she in her career after she left the Army, she runs the arms room. She's a gunsmith. Super strong girl, very smart. But I constantly worry about her because I kind of recognize a little something that you see often with victims of suicide is they don't ask for help. And I'm one of those people that I'm constantly helping everybody else, but it doesn't matter if it's something super large I need to help lift with or something. I'm very, very reluctant to ask for help for something as simple as that.
Right.
And on that
So
note,
when it's a mental thing, it's an even bigger issue.
we have to take another break. I apologize. We've got to pay some bills again. Please stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
Is it?
Conservative leadership is working in Brunswick County, the 5th lowest tax rate in the state, supporting veterans and law enforcement, expanding water and sewer infrastructure, successful job recruitment efforts to bring good jobs to Brunswick County. Vote to keep Brunswick County Commissioners Frank Williams and Mike Forte, 2 lifelong conservative small business owners working hard for us. Paid for by the Frank Williams Committee and the Committee to elect Mike Forte. What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, Attorney at Law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Welcome back, folks, to All Things Brunswick. We have had a great show today. I can't believe this hour has just zoomed by. We have been talking today about soldier suicide, and we are happy to have Gay and Kevin here, who are the parents of a young man who committed suicide after returning from overseas. And also we have Steve Rice, who is, I call him the top volunteer for soldier suicide. And Steve, could you please tell our audience if they know of someone who needs help, or if there is someone listening that needs help, where should they go?
Mary, the answer to the question is very straight up and simple. We've been talking the last hour about the organization Stop Soldier Suicide. So you can do a Google on Stop Soldier Suicide. It'll come up as stopsoldiersuicide.org. They're located in Durham, North Carolina. And there's a button at the top called Get Help. And it's as simple as clicking on Get Help, answer the couple of questions there so that they can reach back out to you and start to get some support from Stop Soldier Suicide. And again, it's no cost and it's confidential.
Right.
Veterans, active duty, all branches. Mm-hmm. And it's we believe that if you pick up the phone and call, that it will help save your life and lives of friends. We'll close with one statistic. It's been said that death by suicide affects more than 100 other lives. So if you feel that you need help, get it. If you don't, you're going to affect 100 lives. Mm-hmm. And they're all friends, family, people that care about you, and you don't want to leave them picking up the pieces.
Right.
This is an opportunity for you to be proactive, not reactive. Mm-hmm. And thank you.
That's a great point, because that 100, and for the veterans and active duty out there who may think they don't have another person out there who cares about them, believe me, they're out there.
Right.
They're out there.
Right.
You may be sitting in a small mind box right now because of your suicide ideations,
mm-hmm.
but it affects.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I please tune in, folks, next week when we're going to do the second segment of this very important topic. If you know a vet, or if you know someone out there who needs to reach out to a vet, please go to Stop Soldier Suicide and click on that button. And thank you so much, folks, for joining us this evening. And
Thank
coming
you,
back.
Steve and Todd. Thank you for being here. I just have to mention my TK. I love him. Couldn't do this without him. Between TK and CB, they keep me straight. They have my back too. So thank you so much. Join us again next week.